I'm still single. So my thing is this: I never thought that I would be 43 and never been married, not engaged, not a prospect, not nothing. And I now understand those church women. Now, I don't actively go to church at the moment, prayerfully. But I think I understand. I think I understand. Now that my daughter's in college, my son lives with his dad. I'm the only one here, and I work all day, and I come home to a peaceful house with no one here. And you see people's marriages, and I'm an Uber driver. I'm taking couples on dates and all of that good stuff. I had a guy in my car today that was surprising his wife and taking her to Italy and Paris, and I was just like, hmm.
Now, who did she say she was? 43? Now, she's not a bad looking woman for her age. And I'd be I'd be willing to bet that she's once upon a time had guys like that in her life. She had guys, let's say 20 years ago, we can even say just 10 years ago. I can only imagine that her being this attractive now, what she looked like 10 years ago, even 20 years ago. She likely had guys that were interested in her that she wasn't interested in them back. These were guys that would have did everything for her, would have given her the world, but she wasn't ready to settle down. She thought she can do better. Feminism really hurt the black community the most of all. Like, black women really bought into the whole I don't need no man thing the hardest. And what ends up happening is that they get older and older and older, and then it all comes hitting them at once. And some of them don't even realize that it was feminism that they bought into that landed them here. But it always hits them at once, usually in their 40s, where they're just like, dang, I really ain't got anybody. And it's because the phone has stopped ringing. 20 years ago, when she was 23, she was probably too hot to trot, had endless guys trying to get at her. And in many cases, the woman that's the it girl at the moment, she can't fathom a future where the phone's not ringing. She can't fathom a future where her kids are grown. She can't fathom a future where she doesn't have a husband. She just have baby daddies, and the baby daddy, he then got married to somebody else, because a lot of times he be wanting her, but she don't be wanting to give up her independence yet, and wants to still kind of play the field. She wants to do her own thing. She doesn't want to obey a man. She doesn't want to submit to a man. And then they find themselves here where they kind of wish that they would have made different decisions.
Like, it's not about the things that he said, it's about the fact that he loves his wife. And I was just like, dang, was I like a terrible person in a former life? Like, was I horrible in my youth? Like,
Maybe not in a former life. You may have been a terrible person just 10 years ago. You could have been a terrible person just 5 years ago. You may have had people that were there with you before, and you didn't quite appreciate them. And that's usually because they think they can do better. Social media really does wreck a lot of relationships. It always has different women. It happens to men, but not as much. It always has women, though, thinking there's something better out there for them, and they shouldn't settle. Like, this guy, he's doing this and that. He checks off 7 of the things that I want in a man, but I want a guy that checks off all 10. So when that guy never appears, when he never manifests this mythical guy, they find themselves here alone, a bunch of gray hairs, and just like, dang, like, what happened?
how come I'm not lovable? I've had men tell me that they love me, and I've had guys say they wanted to marry me, all of that good stuff. But
What happened with those relationships? You saying, how come you're not lovable? And then you follow up with saying you've had guys that said they love you, and you had guys that wanted to marry you, yet here you are at 43 single. See, she confirmed my point immediately after I made it. She had guys that were after her trying to be with her, and she didn't want those guys.
I'm still single. And I come home alone. And I understand that I have the Lord. Trust me, I do. But at the same time, that doesn't stop the fact that I understand those church women out. I understand when a fireman walk in, it's everyone before itself.
The church women in the black community, anyway, can be some of the worst. They're in church, tithing, they're in church, listening to the pastor, they're in church, submitting to the pastor, but the man in their life, they will not submit to him. The man in their life, they're oftentimes very disagreeable with. They oftentimes are very disrespectful towards. But then they'll be in church on Sunday, giving the pastor all the respect, all the submission that they've never given the man in their life.
Like I get it. It's not a good feeling to be older and you see people around you celebrating their 10th, 15th, 20th, 30th anniversary, and you're like, I haven't made it more than 6 months. So, I don't know. That's my TED Talk for today. I don't know if anybody else understands those church mothers and those church women that we always talk about, but we have messed around and become one of them. So, yeah. Lord, let's go through this process because I'm ready to be a wife now.
This is often the end result of feminism. She wasn't ready to be a wife, but ironically ready to be a mom. And that is so crazy to me. You have women that are talking about they don't want to get married, they don't want to be anybody's wife. That's too much of a commitment. But they'll pop out multiple kids. Now we don't know how many she has. She only mentioned one kid. We don't know if that's it or if she has younger ones that still stay with her. But it's always been fascinating to me when I'll see women that have multiple kids, but no ring, and they're like they weren't ready to settle down, they weren't ready to be a wife, but you were ready to be mom. Like that's forever. Even if you tell them this is the outcome, they're not going to listen. I think that's the most tragic part of this. When you try to warn them that this is the ultimate outcome, they ain't trying to hear it. Only for 20 years later to still be alone and the phone isn't ringing, and now here she is, a woman in her 40s, talking about, yeah, now she's ready to be a wife. Usually at this point people are set in their ways. If this is a woman who's been submissive and knows her role in a relationship, if she's been that way the whole time up to this point, then that's not going to be a problem for her when she gets into new relationships. But zebras don't change their stripes. It just seems like now she just wants to be somebody's wife because she really has no other options. This is something on her bucket list that she finally is ready to check off. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm definitely interested in hearing what you guys have to say about it. I'll holler at y'all soon. Peace.